What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another installation here at Mohawk's podcast, and I'm here with Alex Hernandez. We're going to talk about leasing today. Last week, we actually talked about the 10 top things you should look at as a first-time car buyer, but we got 4 things that we're going to talk about today regarding a lease. We're going to talk about the conception of a lease. Like, what is a lease? What does it mean? How does it get divvied up? How do they calculate that? We're going to talk about the benefits, why it would benefit you, and we're also going to talk about the downsides, why it wouldn't benefit you. We're also going to talk about a main misconception that some people have. And let's get into this, Alex. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really proud to be here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Alex Hernandez from Mohawk Honda, a sales and leasing professional, and can't wait to talk about a lease.
Let's go into the first one. Let's talk about the concept of a lease. The main conception of a lease when someone thinks about it is like, oh my God, what's a lease? It's almost like a mythical beast now. But let's dive into it. Let's get this started.
So the best way to think about a lease is that and very specifically with a vehicle, is that a brand new vehicle is going to depreciate over time.
Right.
A lease obligation, or the payment in a lease, is driven from how much that vehicle depreciates over the set term of the lease, and in most cases 36 months.
Okay. Some things that people don't think about when they're getting a new lease, though, after they're turning their lease in, is that you have to think of, so for payment wise, you may want to go up, or you may want to stay the same, you may want to keep the payment the same. You have to think about how you bought the vehicle in the first place. So if you bought a Civic LX in 2015 and you put down $3,000, you shouldn't expect to get a Civic Lease LX in 2020 with no money down and keep that same payment. Is that a valid statement?
Yes.
I think that's something that I've heard a lot just standing in here, but would you validate that as a real thing?
Yep.
So make sure you
definitely.
guys are thinking about that when you're thinking about getting a lease, and you're about to get, maybe you're in a lease right now and you're like, well, I want to get a new lease. That's something to think about to set your realistic expectation when you go into the dealership. Let's go on to benefits. Why would I or somebody benefit from a lease?
The best benefits to think of is that you're covered under the manufacturer warranty for the entirety of the lease in most cases. You maximize value per dollar in terms of a monthly obligation. You're going to get the most options, the most vehicle for a monthly obligation. You also remove yourself from equity problems that come in when trading a vehicle, especially if you had financed one for a longer term, didn't put a lot of money down, didn't set yourself up to be in an equitable situation. You can be in a spot where the vehicle's value is less than what you owe. And in a lease, you won't have to worry about that.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, with my lease, I'm getting newer technology. I have the manufacturer warranty, and I don't have to worry about equity. And is that the depreciation? Is that what equity means? So how much? Is that the opposite side of residual? Is the equity in the vehicle?
Yeah, the best way to think about the equity is really how much you owe on the vehicle if you finance it in the terms of buying it versus how much the vehicle's worth. And that can go both ways. If you set up for a very short term, you only finance it for 3 years, you put a lot of money down, for example, you would be in a situation where the depreciation of the vehicle happens slower than how much you owe on it. So like I said, can go both ways. You can owe less than what the vehicle is worth, and therefore it would be contributed towards essentially like a down payment, or you could take that equity, which you've already put forth in originally buying it. Or you can be in the other scenario where the vehicle is worth less than what you owe, which can cause some problems, especially when trying to move into a different vehicle if that's something that you desire to do or have to do.
Awesome. Let's talk about some of the downsides. We talked about the upsides. What are some of the downsides of leasing?
Some of the downsides are a mileage parameter, and it's not so much how many miles you drive, because you can do high mileage leases, and a lot of times they're in someone's best interest as long as you have the consistency. The consistency of how much you drive is the most important. So if you have a lot of uncertainty in your life of how much you'll be driving, it makes it a little bit more difficult to properly anticipate the next 3 years in terms of how much you'll drive. The second piece is the condition. You got to make sure that you take care of your vehicle. I got to say, it's definitely much easier to take care of a new vehicle rather than one that has already had some pre-existing damage on it. Or
Right. Well, I mean,
hand me down from mom and dad, something like that.
Yeah, we talked about the benefits, and that goes along with the factory warranty. But if you don't maintain that, if you don't change your oil, you don't do the normal maintenance, factory warranty won't come into place if your engine seizes and they see, oh, you didn't change your oil at all within 3 years. That sounds odd. Why wouldn't you do that? So just make sure you guys are thinking about that as well.
I was thinking there's also
maintain it.
Yeah, the condition piece of it, right? Dings, dents, scratches, interior stains, those things will all be evaluated if you do turn in the lease and it goes through that inspection. There is options that are available, things like Lease Guard to help protect yourself from normal wear and tear and anything beyond the things that happen over the 3 years while you own it.
Yeah, so we definitely offer some products, and I'm sure the dealership where you're located definitely has some products that help you combat or help you in the scenario of your lease and you getting a scratch or a dent. So make sure you guys take a look into that. And if you ever have questions, you can always reach out, put comments below, and you could call your local finance manager, call your local dealership, ask for a finance manager, and ask them what they offer for leases. That way you have a realistic expectation of what you're going to want when you come into the dealership.
Yeah, always come in and seek out me. That your sales and leasing consultant is going to be the one that's really going to help you in terms of setting that up, making sure that you got everything presented to you in the best way possible. But I just wanted to mention one last piece to one of the downsides of leasing is that some vehicles lease better than others. In Honda, our Honda store and the manufacturer of Honda, they all lease out really well.
They do. What's
have
up?
A great reputation of holding their value. But
raise the roof.
Finding a vehicle that you really like is one of the most important parts of the process. And so one of the downsides of leasing is that one that you really like may not lease as well as some of the other ones. And luckily we're in a store that has great.
And if you still
values.
want it and you can afford it, go for it. Just make sure you guys you keep that expectation of what it's going to be worth in 3 years for sure. So it's is that it? Is that what we got for the downsides?
Yes. So
all right, cool. So
I'm excited to talk about the misconceptions.
Yeah, we have the last one is it comes in various shapes and forms, and you hear it all the time, and that is, well, it's a lease. I don't actually own the vehicle. It's just a rental, right?
I would say that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions that I hear in the interactions that I have with customers that are evaluating a lease. And the best way to think about it is a rental car, a lot of people drive.
Yes.
That's going to be something
rental
that...
cars, a lot of people drive that, and they may not drive it so nice.
Yeah, and not even that. I mean, it's really... When you buy a car, I would argue that the bank owns the car unless you bought it outright or you're in a specific scenario where you put a lot down or a small amount.
Yeah. So
small term.
So let's combat what would you say if I was coming to you, Alex, and I was like, well, I don't actually own the car, so why would I lease it? I like to have things in my own possession. I like to make sure that I am the exact owner of the vehicle when I buy it. Yeah,
I would argue that you should want to pay for what you use. How often do you trade? How many miles a year do you drive? How long do you plan on keeping your vehicle? How long have you kept your vehicle in the past? If it's a shorter term, say like you'd like to trade every 3 years because you enjoy having the newest technology,
right?
Then I would suggest paying for what you use, and that vehicle is only going to be registered to you, and that you are going to be the one who's going to be able to dictate who can drive it, who goes in it. When it sits in your driveway, it's going to feel like yours.
Yeah, definitely. So, the rental scenario is just not feasible because at the end of the day, you're not trading in a rental. You're just giving it back,
or buying it out,
or buying it out. Well, no, I was talking about the rental scenario.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You don't buy out the rental. You
Yeah.
just have to. You pay them lots of money per day, and you hand it back to them, and then someone else gets it, and then someone else gets it. But when you lease it, you are the one. It sits in your driveway, and you can choose whether or not you want someone else to drive it, or you just want yourself to drive it. And then if you want to trade it in, you can.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, you buy it outright. Yeah, it's almost like a lease to purchase.
Yeah,
you know,
that's you can lease to purchase.
What's that company? Rent for it. What is it?
Center?
Rent a center.
Yeah.
There you go. It's like rent a center.
Yeah, I think they actually would consider it more of a lease there too, and you'll see that when they define it.
I don't even know if that's still. I don't even know if that company still
I don't
exists.
know.
I haven't seen them forever.
I don't know.
Anyway, for any of the old millennials out there, you remember what rent a center is.
Yeah, and the last piece I think that the most important part to really think about is that at the end of the 3 years, you got the three options. You can buy it out. If you choose to do it, if that's the vehicle that you love, you can compare that before you make that decision, what certified pre-owns are going to be doing. And I'd just like to mention that statistically over all manufacturers across the country, leasing is number one in terms of new car sales, and in terms of the purchasing side of it, a certified pre-owned is number two. And usually when a lease is turned in, it makes it a great candidate for a certified pre-owned. And when you have your residual buyout, you can compare it to the price of a certified pre-owned and know what the right choice to make is.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. If you watch on YouTube, thank you guys for watching. If you ever have any comments, make sure you put them in the comments below. We will get to them. We will talk to you about it, and feel free to reach out to Alex.
Thank you so much. Really glad to be here.
See you guys.